And so if you look at the U.S. B2C property listing space, you've sort of seen this progression play out over the last 10 years or so. It started with people putting up listings and allowing consumers to go to sites and search for what's for sale. And as that matured, people who went to those sites began to say, can you tell me anything else about the area around these homes? And so gradually information about the area was introduced into the search experience. And now you're sort of seeing the third phase of this play out, which is people are saying, okay, I see what's for sale, I'm getting a feel for the area, I've got some questions, can you connect me to an expert? And people are experimenting with how exactly to do this. So with the consumer backdrop as a possible example, one of the questions that I'm wondering about is how and when might a similar type of experience find its way in our lives, in the commercial real estate. And so, as everybody knows, there's no shortage of commercial real estate listing sites out there. You can go to any one of these sites and do something very similar to what you can do in the residential world. You can begin to conduct a search for commercial real estate in Las Vegas, and you can begin to get search results back. But then imagine if the future went in a direction something like this. You get property details back, and all of a sudden, this media company added this thing called an assessment profile. Or maybe they called it Find a Pro. Or maybe they call it Ask an Expert. They're experimenting with ways to try to connect somebody who has some degree of interest in this property with somebody who is an expert around this property. And so somebody might click on the assessment profile here and all of a sudden have access to sort of a thin, free teaser layer of information. It might be information about the property's environmental profile based on a quick search of some government records. That type of content might be provided by EDR, could be delivered by any one of our competitors. It could be just downloaded for free now with the rapid growth of the open government movements. You can tap into a number of government sites right now with API and just pull this information into your website on your own. But here's the introduction of some environmental content, very thin layer, for free, very early in the search process for the very first time. So how might this begin to change our world a little bit? Then there might be additional information that connects the shopper, in this case, with some local environmental professionals. So imagine you're on a search site, and all of a sudden something is displayed like this that says there's some local pros in the area, and one of them actually has some experience on site with that address, right? Or another one doesn't have perhaps on-site experience, but they've got some experience in the area. And when I say the area, I'm not talking about Las Vegas or Clark County. I'm talking about maybe a 2-block radius. They've got very precise local knowledge, and maybe they've done some actual work here very recently in 2010. And then you might have the ability to click on the links here and get connected directly to these local environmental results. So this doesn't exist right now, but if we're paying attention to some of the things that are happening in the consumer world with companies that are publishing property-related content, and if we assume that the innovation that's happening in the B2C side might trickle over into our world in the not-too-distant future, I think all of us, both local experts as well as companies that make their living publishing content, need to get a strategy together around this type of activity. And so before I hand it off to Diane, I'll just leave you all with a couple of questions that maybe would apply directly to you, or maybe there are thoughts that you can bring back to your marketing departments when you get back to the office later in the week. My first question is, what are your firms doing, what are your brands doing to move online and insert your brand directly into the property search process? Whether it's both an open-based service or a proprietary subscription-based property search process. Are you doing anything to establish your firm as having local area expertise? And again, not Clark County, Nevada, but very localized, miniature, sort of a multi-block area type of local knowledge. Is there a way to tag your firm to a specific address without violating confidentiality agreements you might have with previous customers? Another way to say this is there a way to make you an attribute of the property, a characteristic of the property? And how can you go about doing that? And then finally, depending on how you view these first three questions, are there ways that EBR, as a media company who also understands the world of environmental risk and due diligence, what are the things that we can do to partner with you to try to move in this general direction? So with that, that's the conclusion of my opening comments. I hope everybody has a great day and a half, and I look forward to catching up with everybody during the content sessions today and socially later on this afternoon and tomorrow. So thanks again for coming.